Welcome to the Be Real podcast with your hosts, Joe Cebula and Bobby Maximus. Bobby, I've got a special plan here today. I have come up with a list of 20 questions. My goal today is to tap into your long and illustrious career as one of the top fitness minds on the planet to get your response to these questions, which I think a lot of people are interested in knowing. Are you ready for this?
I sure am.
Okay, without any further ado, let's just jump right into this.
Okay.
So the first question is, what is the biggest scam that you have seen in the fitness industry?
That you can get more for less, that you can get fit working out 3 times a week for 20 minutes. There's always a hack. There's always a shortcut. People are trying to make this process easier. And if it was never meant to be easy, if it was easy, everybody would be walking around looking like Jason Statham or Sydney Sweeney or whatever celebrity that you think has a great physique. It was never meant to be easy. And the whole shortcut thing, it's just a big, giant lie.
Yeah, and that's a real persistent myth, too, that all you got to train is, 20 minutes a day, 3 days a week, and you can have the physique of your dreams. That goes back a long time. I think back to the 80s even.
Yeah, and it doesn't work that way. Your favorite fitness influencer, the one with the glutes, the one with the abs, the one with the pecs, the one that you admire, they don't work out 3 times a week. Yeah. They're doing stuff every single day, sometimes twice a day.
Yeah, and like most people, they're not just doing nothing on their off days either. They're doing more on their rest days than I think most people are doing on their active
Exactly.
days. Now, next question, in line with that, what do you think is the most overrated trend in fitness today?
Glutes.
Yeah.
And I say that because it's the hook right now, right? Mm-hmm. Everybody wants glutes. So they're trying to sell people on a magic leg exercise, a booty band, an injection, a Brazilian butt lift, like whatever you're going to get a set of glutes. And I don't like breaking fitness down into individual body parts like that. Here's how you're going to get a shredded 6-pack. Here's how you're going to get pecs. Fitness all goes together. Just focus on getting fit, and I promise you, you will have those glutes, you will have those abs, you will have those biceps, you will have the body that you want.
Yeah. And you never see a guy who's just a complete fat slob everywhere except his 6-pack abs, right?
Exactly.
All right, next question. Question number 3. What is the most underrated aspect of fitness?
Ooh, underrated. Honestly, I'm going to say hard work.
Okay.
People think again, and it relates to question 1, but people want to make this process easier, and people are always looking for that magic thing. I'm missing a magic program. I need a good superfood. What's the one supplement you take that's going to, help you achieve your fitness dreams, blah, 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 blah. When really the answer is just showing up day after day after day after day for months, years, decades. Like that's how you're going to get fit. So actually I'm going to change that answer. Not hard work, consistency. If you can just be consistent, you're going to achieve your goals.
All right. Next question. Has social media helped or hurt the fitness industry?
Oh, both. No, honestly, like it's hurt the fitness industry in that you're exposed to a lot more scams. You're exposed to a lot more BS. You're exposed to a lot more magic pills, so to speak. So there's a lot of negative stuff with that. But the positive is you wouldn't have access to some of the best trainers in the world. If you're living in middle America, if you're living in the Midwest, if you're living in the South, if you're living in the North, like it doesn't matter where in the world you are, and you're from a small town of 1,000 people, and you don't have access to some of the best trainers in the world, how would you get them before the internet? The internet can be a tremendous, and I say internet, social media, can be a tremendous source of knowledge. So it's kind of like a two-sided blade, right? You get access to all the great knowledge, but you got to sift through a lot of BS too.
Yeah, that's very, very true. You got to be a smart consumer. Now, with that, what do you think is the biggest just bald-faced lie that the industry propagates?
Oh, I mean, it's going to always be the same answer, that you can get more for less, right? Because no one wants to sell you on hard work. Like, I just want you to think about this. Bobby Maximus, how am I going to get fit? You're going to have to work out every day for 2 hours. You're going to have to watch your diet. You're going to have to sleep 8 hours a night. You're going to have to mitigate stress. You're going to have to engage in recovery practices. You're going to have to spend your hard-earned money on some supplements. You're going to have to limit the enjoyment of things like booze and drugs and fast food and chips and candy and all the things you love. You're going to have to say no to going out with your friends. You're going to have to sacrifice. You're going to have to bleed. You're not going to be able to do this for 6 weeks. You're actually going to have to do this for years at a time. That doesn't sell. It is much sexier for me to sell you on the idea of, for just 10 minutes a day, 3 times a week. And by the way, you can eat and drink whatever you want. You can have the body of your dreams.
Yeah,
that's a much
abs.
easier sell for people.
Yep. And those little catchphrases like that, like the 8-minute abs, they're just so much easier to sell than you're going to have to work hard.
Most people don't want to live the way I live my life. And I'm very honest about that, right? Like, people don't want to do it.
Now, we're on to question number 6. So we're flying right along here. What makes a trainer qualified? And do you think most trainers meet that?
Most trainers do not meet that. Most trainers are highly unqualified. 99% of trainers are unqualified. So there's two, I'm going to say there's 2 buckets that need to be filled for me to consider somebody qualified. One, education. Education can be formal in terms of a university degree or a high-level certification like a CSCS. I don't necessarily rank one above the other, Joe. I've met people who have a CSCS who are great trainers. I've met people who have a CSCS that are garbage. I've also met people who have a classical university education. Maybe they've taken kinesiology. Maybe they've taken physiotherapy. Maybe they've taken exercise science, who are great trainers, and equally people that are bad trainers. But you have to have some level of education, and I'll even put practical education in there. If you had worked with Mike Boyle, who's a legendary trainer your whole life, if you'd worked under Gunnar Peterson, if you'd shadowed Don Saladino for a couple of years, if you worked with Jay Ferrugia, if you worked with Joe DeFranco, and by the way, you may or may not know these names, but very, very famous, good trainers. If you had worked with some of these people practically, I would also consider that a good education. So that's bucket number 1. Bucket number 2, what have you actually done? And that can be split into multiple categories, but have you played a professional sport? Have you made it to the Olympics? Mm-hmm. Have you played a high-level amateur sport? Have you been paid to play a sport? Have you trained anybody that's actually gotten a real, genuine result? Like, you have to have some type of credential, real world experience.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point too, because it also depends on what kind of trainer you're trying to be. Like, if you're trying to be I get everybody into the NBA, but you've never even trained an NBA athlete, like, you've got nothing to stand on. But
that's kind of tough. If you're trying to help people lose weight, Joe, and you haven't helped anybody lose weight, like, I want to see, I want to see some proof. Is what I want to see. I want to see
some client success stories or something tangible from what the work that you've done.
Yeah, so you need education and you need some type of result.
Yeah. And again, just because you went to the Olympics doesn't mean you're a good coach either. Sometimes the best athletes are the worst coaches.
Correct.
All right, next question. What's the most dangerous fitness advice out there?
You made me sneeze. I'm allergic to that, by the way. But the most dangerous fitness advice, honestly, I'm going to go after the TRT industry for this. And I'm going to be very clear about this. TRT can be used as a medication. HRT is a bigger whole hormone replacement therapy. I think it can be a real medical intervention. I think there are genuinely people that are low. I think that there are genuinely people that need help. I think it can help with anxiety. I think it can help with depression. I think it can help people live longer, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But the danger of today is you have the guy who's 40 years old, who drinks every Thursday, Friday, Saturday night, and I'm not talking about water. He's got some drug use. He sleeps 5 hours a night. His entire diet's furnished by fast food. He hasn't worked out since 2003. goes and gets his testosterone tested, it's low, and then just decides to hop on a pharmaceutical for the rest of his life. And that's what the industry pushes. It doesn't push the hard work. It doesn't push correcting stuff the natural way. It's just a quick fix, the Band-Aid solution. And I'll put Ozempic in that category too, right? Like if you've tried everything you can to lose weight, and Ozempic is the last resort, and the side effects of Ozempic are better than being 300 pounds. And by all means, use the pharmaceutical. But just hopping on a pharmaceutical because you refuse to walk or watch what you eat, I think that's a major problem. And I think that can be really dangerous and set people up for a lifetime of misery.
Yeah, and that really ties back to the last question about qualifications too, because you can be a well-qualified coach, but you're still not a physician. You still didn't go to medical school. All right, next question. Is the focus on aesthetics hurting the industry?
Yes and no. A lot of these are going to be yes and no, to be honest with you. But there's two sides to this. Number one, I don't want somebody to be focused just on looks. I think there's far more benefit to the fitness industry than just looking good. I really think fitness can be used as a platform to build yourself up in every other area of your life. Your professional life, your personal life, your romantic life, your emotional health. And I really do believe the body is best when it's functional and capable. And I believe you are happier when you're able to do real stuff. That said, I've switched in the last few years. I used to be only about functional training, but there's nothing wrong with looking good either, Joe. It makes you feel better. It gives you more confidence. It makes you happier. It gets you some of the things that you love. And the truth is they're intertwined. You're not going to look good unless you're doing some real, actual work. Like when I compare in the past, oh, that guy that looks great isn't functional. I'm comparing him to a really high-level CrossFit athlete. I'm comparing him to like an NFL player. I'm comparing him to an NBA player. But the reality is if you have a six-pack, if you have shoulders, if you have pecs, if I take some actors, Chris Hemsworth, Henry Cavill, Jason Statham, they look great. And they're actors, sure. They're not Olympic athletes. But my guess is they are far more functional than your average human being. So to get looking good, you've got to have some degree of functionality.
Yeah, and I've always said, form follows function, right? So like if you are functionally fit, you shouldn't be that far off from looking good anyway.
That's right. They're linked.
Yeah. All right. We are up to question number 9. This is a big one. What is the biggest change that you'd like to see in the fitness industry?
I want some fact checking.
Not on Meta, you
right?
don't.
We're getting rid of fact checking. We had fact checking. It's going out the window. No. I want some real, actual fact checking. I want a world where people can't just say whatever they want on the internet about getting fit without some real, actual proof.
Well, to that, question number 10, is the industry more about selling or helping?
Oh, more about selling. Everything in the world is about selling. And let's be clear. There's nothing wrong with that. I want to make some money. You want to make some money. But it's like the professional sports debate we talk about, Joe. People, we live in a world, and I'm gonna liken this to fitness, so bear with me. We live in a world where we think that winning the NFL is about the glory of football and the glory of the game and the integrity and the standard. And the NFL is about one thing. It's about making money. It's a business. Training people, sure. Do I enjoy helping people? Yes, but I also need to make money off it. I cannot do this for free. So it is about selling.
Yeah. That's a really, really important thing to keep in mind, especially in the U.S. It's always about the shareholders. It's always about the profit margins. You're not going to get away from that, but that's not the worst thing that could happen.
No.
All right, next question.
And it doesn't mean, by the way, just because you're selling something doesn't make it bad.
Right,
just because you're making $1. Like my NFL example, I love the NFL. I love the NBA. Because it's about money, it doesn't make it bad. But let's be clear. It is about money. It is a business.
Yeah, exactly. All right, next question. We're up to number 11, so we're on the downward slope. Why are people so obsessed with quick fixes?
Because it's easy. People don't want to do the hard work. Like, the world's hard, man. Turn on social media. We're bombarded with stressful news items, especially now. People are miserable. People are unhappy. The last thing they want to do when they have an hour of their own free time is go grind and hustle and sweat and hurt some more. People want it to be easy. We want everything. The entire human existence is based on making things more convenient and more efficient. So why wouldn't we be that way with fitness?
Sure. Do you think that people, and this is the next question, do you think they're too easily led astray?
Yeah, 100%. Because people really just don't want to do the hard work. They're trying to avoid it at any cost. And you know, when you buy that thing, 8-minute abs, when you buy that thing that promises you a quick fix and a result, you know in your little heart it's not going to work. But you're hoping and praying that this might be the thing.
Yeah. And with that, what do you think are the biggest mistakes that people make when they start out?
Expecting too much too fast. It's kind of like the marriage thing, right? I really think divorce rates are so high. It's because people have this fantasy idea of marriage. You're going to make love every night. You're never going to fight. It's going to be this beautiful, wonderful thing. And then you get into the marriage after a year or 2 years, and you realize this is hard. This is going to take sacrifice. You're going to have to put real effort into this. And if you talk to any couple that's been married even 5 years, Joe, they will tell you it is a lot of work, kind of like parenting. Parenting is the most rewarding experience you can imagine, but it's also a ton of work and a ton of effort. And I think what happens is when you go into a marriage and you think it's going to be all roses and rainbows, when the hard parts come, you're not mentally equipped to deal with it. And that's why I think a lot of divorces happen. Same thing with fitness. If you really think it's going to be easy and you jump in and you're not prepared for what's coming, you're going to get smashed, you're going to get chewed up and spit out, and you're going to quit. On the other hand, if you understood that it was hard, if you understood that it was a long road, if you just took the attitude that, yes, this is going to take a year of my life, at 6 months, it wouldn't be that hard.
Yeah. Well, at 6 months, it's only going to take what you've already done, and you've already done it once. You can do it again.
When you expect it to happen in 2 minutes and it doesn't, that's crushing.
Yeah. And that reminds me of what I always tell people when they're about to get married, is people always go into a marriage thinking it's going to be 50-50. A little give, a little bit of take. But the right perspective is that it's 70-70. You're always going to be giving a little bit more than you're getting back. And you got to recognize that the other person's probably going to feel the same way. And if you're okay with that, and it's worth it, then you're in the right spot.
It's easier to make it through.
Yeah. Do you think that clients are prioritizing looks over health, and which is more important in the beginning?
Oh, man, I'd say everyone prioritizes looks over health. And again, I don't know if there's anything wrong with that. Like, everyone wants to look good. Everyone wants to feel good. I fly the functional flag. We went over this earlier. But like, man, I love taking off my shirt and looking good in the mirror. That said, both will come together. Like, I promise you, if you, on average, you have a person with a six-pack, you have a person with a low amount of body fat, you have a person that has some muscle mass, they're going to be healthier than your average obese person. That's just a fact. They're intertwined more than we think.
Well, we've said it before, too. I think if there was a magic pill that would make you look jacked, everybody would take it. I don't think anybody, no side effects, guaranteed to work. Everybody would take the dang pill, regardless of what it did to their health.
Yep.
All right. Up to question number 15, and piggybacking off of that, do people take enough responsibility for their own fitness?
No, people don't take enough responsibility for anything. Chances are, and I'll just say this so we move on to the next question, anything that's gone well in your life, look in the mirror, you probably did something to influence that. Anything that's going poorly, look in the mirror, you probably did something to influence that. I mean, yeah, there are outliers. Your dad left you a trust fund. You had nothing to do with it. Did that. Fine, I get it. For the most part, you're the author of your own victory or demise.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. How do you think people can be more critical of fitness information?
Open your eyes. Look around, fact check some stuff. use Google. Like, for example, and I've went over this in the training industry. You see an influencer on TikTok or on Instagram or social media or YouTube Reels or whatever, and they have 1 million followers, and you instantly think they're credible. Google them. Look them up. You can easily find out what their credentials are or are not. Like, just do a little more research.
Yeah, make the effort, right?
Like it's that simple. And you could do that with diet. You could do that with exercise. You could do that with, I mean, that's the beauty of the internet, right? There's a bunch of information at your fingertips.
I think that's the trap of social media. You know, if some influencer says something, you just believe them at face value. You don't have to put any effort forth. Nope. And I think that fear of having to do anything is the same reason why most people are out of shape to begin with.
Yeah, do a little bit of research.
Yeah. Gosh, we're already up to number 17, so flying through these. Do you think people are addicted to the fitness hustle?
No, absolutely not. Look at the world. I mean,
I would say, I think that's a great question, but I would counter that. I think people are addicted to the appearance of the fitness hustle.
Oh,
like they like wearing the Lululemon clothes and looking fit, but they really don't want to do the things that you have to do. No.
People don't want to do the work. But again, Joe, we're talking about two different subsects of society, right? Mm-hmm. Like there are people that are fit. There are people that are obsessed with the shoes and the clothes and looking fit and like the good looking people. That's a very small percentage of the world. 95% of the world is horrifically unfit by a lot of standards. So like as a whole, no. But the people that are in it, yes, they are addicting to looking like they're in it. You got to have your whoop strap. You got to have your Oura ring. You got to have the clothes. You got to have I get what you're saying.
Well, we used to joke a little bit about Jocko, right? Jocko Willing, because he always just posts the picture of his watch with like droplets of water on it. Like, you know, he's early in the morning, he's sweating, but he very well could have just dropped water on his watch and took a picture.
Yeah, and like, Jocko actually, in fairness, Jocko actually works really hard.
Oh, yeah, but that's what I'm saying. But there's also the image of it outside of the reality. But
that's the message people miss. Like they're into the hustle of him waking up at 4:30 and the aftermath and him working hard. But they don't actually go do the work themselves. They love the idea of working hard. They love the idea of the Rocky montage, so to speak. They don't love the idea of actually doing it.
Well, that's very motivating, and I think it leads into the next question. So let's say that people are done with the BS and they're ready to start. What do you think are the most important traits they should look for in a trainer?
Honesty, leading by example. Number one, a trainer that's going to fill your head with lies to just try and sell you, get rid of them. Number two, does your trainer practice what they preach? Mm-hmm. Are they actually working hard? Are they waking up early in the morning and doing the work, or are they just telling you to do that?
Yeah, that's great advice. I mean, there's the obvious answer. Like you wouldn't take fitness advice from somebody who's just got awful out of shape, right?
Yep.
I don't take medical advice from people who aren't doctors either. Okay. No. Technology, good thing, bad thing, or people too reliant on it when it comes to their fitness?
So again, both. I think it can be a great thing. I think more information is better. I think you walking around guessing your body fat is really dangerous because you can lie to yourself easy. So I think having a measure of your recovery, I think having your heart rate, I think having a way to measure your body fat, I think those can be all important tools that you can use. At the same time, people are too focused on the tools and less on the hard work. If you just showed up, like you take your Whoop score, for example, the score the Oura ring spits out, your body fat measure, like whatever you want to take. If you just focused on the process, if you focused on working out every day and eating healthy and sleeping better, you would have great scores across the board. So they can be really, really good, but they're not the end all be all. The process is everything.
Yeah, I agree with that. Now, that brings us to question number 20. Save the big one for the end. What is the biggest, most important lesson that you've learned in your career as a trainer?
That the only way to get people fit is for them to show up every single day. It really is the answer. People used to hire me and they can only afford a trainer 3 days a week. They can only afford a trainer 2 days a week. Like, that's not going to cut it. If you want to be good at something, you have to do it every single day. And any training program you sell or give people is going to have to be based on that.
Great answer. I can't argue with that at all. But that's it. 20 questions with Bobby Maximus. Any other thoughts you want to add in on this?
No, just drop the pills. I said no. Yes, drop the pills, drop the hacks, drop the 3 easy payments of $9.99. Like, every answer I gave today was the same. If you really, really want this, if you're watching this video, you're like, okay, it's time for me to get fit, block out an hour in your calendar every single day and show up for a year straight. Eat healthier food and sleep better. You do that, I promise you, all your fitness dreams will come true. If you don't want to, keep looking for hacks, keep looking for shortcuts, keep looking for 3 easy payments at $9.99. It ain't going to happen for you, and you're going to end up with a lot of frustration and a lot of pain.
Amen. There we have it. Another episode of the Maximus. Oh, I almost called it the old name, the Be Real podcast. We used to call this the Maximus podcast for you OGs out there.
Yes.
What's your famous phrase now, Bobby? Don't be a hoe, share the show.
Don't be a hoe, share the show. That's how you can thank us. Subscribe, like us. Don't be a hoe, share the show with everybody you know.